The rider's going to come out. And when he does, he'll destroy whoever's got it coming.
Marvel Comics character Johnny Blaze, a motorcycle stuntman who by night is transformed into a fiery demon, returns to the big screen to once again root the world from evildoers. Hello there to everyone watching. I am film critic Nick Iacobucci, as always, for the website RealScreenReviews.com, and our next movie review is Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance. This action, 3D adventure, and sequel opened nationwide on Friday, February 17th, 2012, and it stars Nicolas Cage, Idris Elba, and Christopher Lambert. This film comes to us from the writing and directing team of Neville Dean Taylor, the duo responsible for most of the Crank franchise, as well as Gamer with Gerard Butler. They now team up with an actor that has gone from very well regarded and fallen to the status of almost straight to DVD features, and they're going to see if he has one more big hit in him for audiences. This tale once again tells us the character of Johnny Blaze, and he, just like the Hulk, is trying everything he can do to suppress the curse that is inside him. He has traveled to a remote area of Eastern Europe and would be happy living out the rest of his days alone. However, one day he is recruited to take on the devil himself, who is on the prowl for a very young and powerful mortal boy, or is the devil just trying to draw out our fiery hero? Along the way, the Ghost Rider will also have to fend off a warrior monk with a taste for alcohol and a criminal turned demonic creature that is recruited to help take down our hero as well. Before this tale comes to a close, Johnny Blaze will once again come face to face with Lucifer, and this time will he be ready to embrace his darker side. Well, people, Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance is about 10 times better than the first Ghost Rider film, and that puts it right under average. This film always just slides too much in the direction of being cheesy, and there was an example of this at almost every turn. Whether you're describing spoken dialogue the likes of, "So you're the devil's baby mama," or urinating fire like a flamethrower, it's just substandard. The filmmakers seem to care much more about fast cuts, flashy 3D transitions, and music videos of motorcycle wheelies than they ever do about telling a credible tale. Not that this is such a bad thing, because I believe that their intent was to be deliberately cheesy in the first place. Otherwise, why else would we have a movie villain with a superpower of making things, get this, decay? The only thing that Neville Dean Taylor didn't do was give this antagonist a pathetically stupid name the likes of Dr. Decayator. All I can say is that it's very difficult to not pick apart Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance when the production team doesn't really set the bar that high in the first place. My biggest gripe or complaint with Ghost Rider is that when Johnny Blaze turns into his alter ego, it just looks like a floating skull. I think that it's actually Nick Cage being filmed and then they CGI this skull over the top of his face. You know, I'm not saying that it looks bad or that it doesn't look credible, and I'm not saying that it's not accurate to the comic books, but what I am saying is that essentially it just begins to feel like I'm watching a character from Mortal Kombat, the video game. With no eyes or facial expression, it is very difficult to convey any kind of personality or emotion to the character, and this couldn't have been any more prevalent than when the Ghost Rider was exercising his signature move that he did at least 3 times. He stares at his adversary and takes their soul. This might work in a written comic book, but the last thing that I would want to depict as a superpower on screen would be the ability to stare. I mean, how boring is that? Now, I think that the only choice that was worse than this was when Alec Baldwin portrayed The Shadow in the early 90s, and that's because whenever that character was utilizing his super abilities, he was completely invisible. Think about it. The ability of not being able to be seen is the only superpower more boring than the ability to win a staring contest. Now, this isn't all bad because, like I said before, I think that it pretty much accomplishes everything that it set out to do. I believe that the first installment of The Rider attempted to be dramatic, and by doing so, the movie couldn't have failed worse. Spirit of Vengeance never tries to take itself too seriously, and that more than helps the project on a whole. They keep the story as basic as possible and instead fill this chapter with almost relentless special effects and action. The flashy 3 dimensions actually brought some much-needed fun to this film, and the eye-popping visuals could most likely be labeled the movie's best quality. At 1 hour and 35 minutes, Ghost Rider isn't going to win any Academy Awards. Big surprise. It's set out to entertain young male audiences and gives an alternative to people all wrapped up in Valentine's movies the likes of The Vow and This Means War. Ghost Rider is pretty much a bad film, but does keep itself moving right along and never really slows down enough to be completely boring. Everyone walking into this movie must know that they're going to see a flawed film. However, those looking forward to seeing the rider burst into flames and wreak havoc against the devil, well, they will most likely be entertained by this newest chapter. When I put this up against other recent action films, the likes of Contraband or the very recent Safe House or Chronicle, it doesn't even come close. Nick's real screen review is an all-around weak 1 1/2 stars out of 4 for the return of Nicolas Cage as Johnny Blaze in the new actioneer Ghost Rider: The Spirit of Vengeance. And remember, people, I'm not always right, but only when it comes to the movies, and thank you for your attention.